Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about drones. And this has always been an interesting topic to me. As someone who travels and creates a lot of videos, it can be a very powerful tool to get, unique angles, very cinematic footage that you couldn't otherwise get. But on the other hand, I've also found them to be cumbersome sometimes. You have to carry a remote, cables, batteries, lots of equipment. They can get a little bit bulkier. There's also regulations about the types of drones that you fly, where you can fly them. Sometimes you need licenses. And it's just a lot to think about as someone who is a little lazier and, just not an expert in this realm. I always found it to be overwhelming and didn't use a drone as much as I maybe would have liked to. And that's where this new category of drone seems to be really taking off. It appeals to me a lot. And I'm talking, of course, about self-flying drones. And I got my exposure to this first through the DJI Neo. This was the first of this style of drone that felt like it, did a really good job as far as offering good enough video and was also very easy to use. I've talked about this in a couple of different videos. I've, featured footage that I've taken with this drone, and it's been great to just have something that can follow me around and that's very, very simple to use. Now, that made it very interesting when I heard about the HoverAir X1 Pro drone, because it seemed to offer all of the things that the Neo had along with more advanced capabilities without sacrificing what makes a self-flying drone so nice to use. And so that was, the value that was proposed from this, and I've had a chance now to test it for a couple of weeks. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about what it's been like to use it. I'll show you, all the functionality that it offers, talk through my thoughts on the experience. And so this isn't going to be, an MKBHD style deep dive into the tech, and specs of this drone. I'm going to be approaching this from, kind of the standard consumer standpoint, as somebody who, just would like to fly a drone and not think too much about settings, about resolutions, just knowing that I'm gonna have footage that's gonna be workable and a drone that's gonna be reliable. And I'll also talk a little bit about how it's compared to using the DJI Neo. So excited to dive in. Before doing so, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Danny, and on this channel, we love reviewing popular travel and everyday carry gear. If you like these types of videos and you'd be interested in seeing more, please consider subscribing, as it helps the channel out a lot. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Starting off with a brief overview of the items that we're going to be taking a look at in this video. Here I have the X1 ProMax drone and the beacon joystick combo. I really like the hard shell cases that these can be stored in. They, are able to fit around the items. They offer plenty of protection, but they also don't feel overwhelmingly bulky, which is super nice. So I'll go ahead and open these up. Here we have the beacon with the joystick accessories, and then the drone case itself. And this is designed to hold an extra set of batteries and the charging cable. And these items can be purchased separately, and the company also offers a variety of bundles, so you can kind of start with the drone and a battery and build up from there depending on what your needs are going to be. But still very cool that there's kind of a whole ecosystem surrounding the drone itself. And so taking a look at the drone first, I absolutely love this form factor. So this is something that feels compact, fairly lightweight, and I love that it's a foldable design. Let me get the DJI Neo here just for size comparisons, and you can see that it's pretty similar, but the X1 ProMax is gonna pack a little flatter, and I like that the actual propellers can collapse into this nice form factor. And so, both of these are super compact. If you don't carry it in one of the cases, you'll be able to place it into a backpack very easily, into a smaller pocket, or even into your own pants pocket. So really great form factor. And then when you're ready to use it, you can actually open this up and you're in flight mode. And the frame that's used here for the propellers feels very lightweight, but the material is designed to also be super sturdy. So really cool design there. And then I love that when you collapse this down, it's a very secure closure. When you open it up, it also feels very secure. So really, really just high quality. And then continuing along the exterior, you have a couple of ports on one side, so a micro USB, so that you can actually extend the memory. This does have some built-in storage, but this is another one of those things that just gives you that added flexibility. If you're gonna be shooting a lot of footage, you can extend that out. And then you also have the ability to charge this via USB-C, which is great. And then at the top, you just have a simple screen, a couple of controls to toggle through the various modes. You can remove the battery here from the top, and then you have the 8K camera on the front with a gimbal. And so this is what's going to allow you to get that very high quality footage that's also going to look super smooth and stable. So this looks and feels great. One thing that I wasn't crazy about is that there doesn't seem to be a cover for the actual camera and gimbal. So that's a little different than the DJI. You can see that it has that frame here that comes over the actual camera. Same with some of the other drones, and so it would have been nice to maybe just have a little bit of extra protection here, but haven't had any issues so far. And again, that was an 8K camera, and so absolutely great footage compared especially to something like this Neo here, which is, you know, a really nice camera. It gets a good amount of definition, but not quite at the same level as the X1 ProMax. And so, you know, that's been fantastic to just kind of experiment with, use it in different environments, and you know, I've absolutely loved the footage that I've gotten so far. Coming back to the battery, the flight time on this I believe is going to be around 15 or 20 minutes, something like that, which of course will vary depending on the conditions outside and the types of modes that you're using. This is something that's going to be able to travel pretty quickly. You know, if you're going to be using it for action sports, for cycling, that's of course going to, you know, have an impact on the battery. But one of the cool things is that you can actually remove the battery and pack a couple of spares, so you don't have to actually stop, wait until it recharges. And so you can purchase these with the set that I have. There's a really cool dock that charges via USB-C. You can actually charge two of these batteries at the same time, and then, you know, just throw it right in. You can continue flying without any issues. And this set that I have also includes the charging block and cable for the USB-C. If you don't get this case with the drone, I believe that the drone itself just has this really nice kind of soft feeling cover, so you still have some protection. And this is actually quite nice when I have like a more minimal setup, if I'm not gonna be filming as long during the day. Because it's so much more compact like this, I actually prefer to throw it in a pouch, throw it in one of my bags, and I feel like it's gonna offer more than enough protection for what I would need. And so really great to have the dock to pair with the drone. And then as far as getting this set up and ready to fly, it's super simple. There is an app that you can download onto your phone, which I've found pretty helpful. It's got a couple of different features. I really like how it gives you a preview of the different flight modes. As you know, someone who is just learning to use this, there are quite a few. I believe there's at least 10. And so it's really cool to have that flexibility, helpful to see them in action. And then, you know, as far as it getting up in the air, you can literally just hold out your hand and it will fly all on its own, which is fantastic. You just turn it on and then it will follow you in whatever mode you've selected. And so far, the following and tracking has been fantastic. I've used this on my one wheel. I've used it for walking around, for hiking, and it does a great job of tracking me, you know, and getting great footage, keeping up with me, particularly when I'm, you know, really going on my one wheel. It was great to just kind of know that it was behind me and capturing some awesome footage. And so that's been really cool to see. And it just works the way that you would expect. This is what's gonna make this so great for anyone who's curious about getting into a drone, is that you can just get things started. You don't have to connect this to a remote. You don't have to deal with a bunch of different sort of configurations. Super simple, but then you can also expand how you wanna use it with the modes that it provides. As I mentioned, there are quite a few. And so things like dolly tracking are gonna allow you to get footage that just feels cinematic, professional. And then if you wanna take it a step further, that's where the beacon and joystick can really come in handy. And so the beacon on its own works great as a way to give you a view of what the camera is actually seeing when you're flying. And so that's fantastic, and it will also help the drone track you. And from there, you can also actually pair it with the joystick to help this manually control the drone. You can use it with just one joystick. It has gesture capabilities to kind of move it forward, move it backwards. But if you want that added level of control, it's got these magnetic attachments. It almost feels like a transformer when I was using it. You can pull that out, and now you have a joystick that's going to allow you to properly control the drone, feeling a lot more like what you would imagine a kind of standard classic drone would feel like with its manual controls. And so I think this is awesome, particularly for taking, you know, your drone flying skills to the next level. Personally, I don't use this as much because, again, for me, the value of something like this is that I don't have to control it. I can just set it and forget it, go get my footage. I don't need a secondary person. I don't need to actually be paying attention to the drone itself. And so, that's been fantastic to just continue to use that, but know that I do have the added flexibility to, manually control it or use it for any shots that aren't sort of managed by the auto modes that it includes. And so a very cool ecosystem overall, whether you just get the drone or you get the joystick combo to pair it and give yourself some additional control over how you fly the drone. This has been fantastic to use. I feel like I'm still just kind of getting familiar with all of the capabilities and getting more and more comfortable with pushing the limits of, how fast it can go, where it can follow me. I know this is designed to be able to handle a number of different terrains. You can actually take this over the water, you can go into the mountains. It has a really good ability to avoid collisions, and it feels like a durable drone, and I love the form factor. Again, this is the type of thing that is very easy for me to travel with. I don't have to, consider it as much as I would have with one of my prior drones. That's been the thing that I've really loved about the DJI Neo. And so this isn't really meant to be a comparison video between the two, because I feel like they're in a different tier. This is still just excellent for its simplicity. You don't have to worry about memory cards. You just take off the cover, turn it on, and it's super, super simple. And so I think that still offers a lot of value for people who are just getting started, who don't need a camera that's going to be quite as high definition, and you just want to capture some simple footage. This absolutely works. But for people who are looking to have some extra flexibility or just need to take their content to the next level and want a drone that they can kind of grow into a little bit more, that's where the Pro Max has really been great for me as somebody who is continuing to kind of experiment and having that ability to add the extra memory, and then of course the added resolution on the camera, the great gimbal that's included here, and the speed and the various flight modes that are provided just allow you to experiment more, to capture more unique footage. And so if you're somebody who wants something that's a little bit more advanced than the DJI Neo, I think this is going to be a fantastic option to consider. And so to wrap up, it's been a great experience using the HoverAir X1 ProMax over the past couple of weeks. You can currently purchase this on the company site. They're gonna have a couple of different bundles and price points that you can consider. I've also seen that they're running a few sales during the weeks that I've been filming this, so hopefully, when this releases, there'll still be some of those that you can check out if you wanna get the charging dock with a couple of different batteries, or the beacon accessory with the joysticks to be able to control the drone. That's gonna take the price point up a little bit more. And so, it'll really depend on what you think you're gonna use this for. I think that the drone on its own with maybe an extra battery is gonna be more than enough for most people. That's honestly what I've used the most, because, as I talked about throughout the video, it's the simplicity and the minimalness of everything that I love about these. And so I think that's a great place to start, but you do get a lot of value for the other accessories. So make sure to check that out on their site. And yeah, I just love how this category is growing, because I think that this is gonna be something that makes drones way more accessible to people like me who aren't experts in this, who don't really want something that's pro level, cinematic, but it's gonna allow me to capture some interesting footage. I think a lot of people are gonna be like this, maybe wanna throw it into a bag, take it on a trip, capture some cool footage with friends and family. And I think, both of these will get the job done. I still love the DJI Neo. DJI is, of course, one of the leaders in the drone category in general, and I've had great experiences with this one. It comes in at $200, and it's a fantastic value, great entry level sort of drone for anybody. But if you're curious about drones and you want something that's gonna give you just a little bit more as you get more comfortable with drones, and also provide more flexibility as far as the activities that you can use it to capture footage for, particularly if you're doing action sports, if you need something that's a little faster, that's gonna keep up with you, I think that the Pro Max is a fantastic option. It's gonna cost a little bit more, but I do feel like you get a lot of value for the extra functionality that this provides. It's a great sort of middle point between a very entry-level drone and a pro drone at a price point that also lands kind of in the middle. And then of course the added benefit of the form factor, being able to collapse it, pack it away. And so, it's just been a fantastic experience. And if you're looking for something that is going to allow you to create footage by yourself, that's gonna follow you along, that's gonna be easy to use, that you're not gonna have to worry about setup or licenses or anything like that, then I think this is gonna be a really interesting item to check out. And I'm curious what you all think about this category of drones. Have you used these in the past? Do you have a lot of experience with pro drones? What are some of the differences? And let me know. And if there's other items like this that you think that I should check out, let me know in the comments. And I want to thank HoverAir for sending the drone for me to test out, and to you guys for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.